been talking about believing in yourself, and today we're going to cover part 3 of that. And you might want to check out part 1 or 2, and all you have to do is go to barbtv.org, and you can see exactly which one those are. And I think you actually will really enjoy those as well. But today we're going to talk about expecting to be blessed. When you wake up in the morning, when you start your day, is it just another day, another routine, or are you expecting to be blessed? How do you do that? How do you make the best out of it? And actually, Jesus talks about it in the Bible. And he says in John 10:10, which is our focus today, it says, I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. I am going to share with you 3 parts that the Bible talks about today that you can live life abundantly every single day. And the first part of that is going to be about not to compromise. The second part is going to be all in with Jesus. And the third part is to commit fully, wholeheartedly, to completely say, I can do this. And you probably say right now, you're right, Barb, that's not going to happen. That is impossible. But, you know, when bad things happen, when life is challenging, when people get laid off, sickness happens, disappointment starts, is it possible for you to live life abundantly, the abundant life that Jesus Christ is talking about here? And the answer to that is yes. The answer is yes, because there is a man in the Bible that did that, that lived that, and that ended up reaping the blessings at the end in such a way that it touched many, many people around him. I'm talking about Caleb. Caleb was one of the 12 spies that went to check out the promised land. And as he got there, he was excited. He could see it having milk and honey. He could see the potential. He could see the promises of God being fulfilled. He was thrilled about it. He comes back. All 12 spies come back, and him and Joshua see and share all the good that was in the land. They bring back big grapes. There is an abundance. But the 10 other spies did not see it the same. They focused on the fear, and they focused on what they thought could get in the way. They saw giants. They felt like grasshoppers. It looked like a land that was impossible to conquer. And so they shared with the people in such a way that instead of the people starting to trust on God and to expect to be blessed, holding on to God's promises, instead they were so angry that they were going to stone Caleb and Joshua for the good, you hear me right, for the good report that they were bringing to them. That's the moment something happened. Joshua and Caleb were so upset. They were so frustrated that they tore their clothing, saying, I can't believe this is happening. They're about to get stoned. And as they start to throw stones, God's glory comes in and stops it from happening. What happened? Why did they want to go back to slavery? Why did they want to go back to trouble? Why did they not want to claim their promises? Why? Because they weren't expecting to be blessed, and they weren't expecting for God to give them victory. They chose to live in defeat. Today, are you choosing to live in defeat, or are you choosing to live in victory by trusting God? Caleb tore his clothing. Joshua tore his clothing. They were angry. They were frustrated. They couldn't believe it. They were hurt. Were the people that ignorant about what God could do? And then something very important happened. And that's the first step we're going to talk about today. We're talking about step 1, which is expecting to be blessed, is do not compromise. Do not compromise. Because when you compromise, when you choose to go with the majority, when you choose to live in fear instead of trusting in God, mistakes are going to happen. You are starting to walk your own way instead of God's way. And Caleb realized that instead of the disappointment of having to live for 40 years in the desert when it was not his fault, when he did nothing wrong, when it was not his mistake, he started seeing it as a blessing, because he was going to be the one that still was allowed to go to the promised land. God had not wiped out the Hebrews because of their attitude. God was giving him an inheritance in the promised land and to his children. And those next 39 to 40 years became an opportunity, instead of a disappointment, to teach the next generation to get ready for the promised land that God was going to give them. Did you see what just happened there? When you change your attitude, when you start looking at the blessing instead of the disappointment, it changes everything. And even if the 40 years are long that are coming, God is going to do amazing things with that. He is going to turn it around. I started something new not too long ago, and every day I started writing down the blessings that God gave me on a daily basis. And they come in all kinds of shapes of forms. And when I got those blessings, I would write down what I would have been willing to pay for that blessing that came my way. It could be in gifts, it could be in flowers, it could be in money, it could be in donations, it could be in all kinds of different things. I took 10% of that value that I would have been willing to pay for that. And that 10% I would give back to a donation, give that to somebody else as a thank you. And my attitude has changed amazingly, because every day has become a blessing, expecting God to bless me more. That is what Joshua was talking about in such a bigger way. And we're going to go actually look at that. It says in Joshua 15, starting at verse 7, what happened there. And here is Joshua talking, it's Caleb talking in the book of Joshua. And he says, I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land. And I brought word back to him as it was in my heart. Nevertheless, my brethren who went up with me made the heart of the people melt with fear. But I followed the Lord my God fully. Couple of key elements are right there from the beginning. He was 40 years old. He was a young man. He was busy. He was living. There was things happening in his life. That did not stop him for living for God. He made God more important. And it says right here, and I brought word back from a country that looked like they were grasshoppers between giants. And I brought word back to him as it was in my heart. What is in your heart? What is your focus? Do you start with disappointment, or do you start with expecting to be blessed? He saw the blessings of God, and by that being in his heart, he was able to not compromise. We compromise when we want to go along with our boss. We compromise when we think we can get away with something. We compromise when we're speeding and we keep looking on the road if the cops are around. We compromise when we start making different mistakes and saying things or even lying to run favor by somebody. We compromise all day long, every day, thinking we can get away with that. But when we stop compromising like Caleb did and making God more important, that is when you start reaping blessings. Part 2 is talking about all in. How can you be all in? What is it that you can do to be blessed every single day? But before we get there, stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Chaplain Sherry of Love Your Life Ministries, and I'm here today to encourage you to join Love Your Life. It's a very exciting way to get connected to women, other women who have problems, unique situations, things that you may want to discuss with them that you can't discuss with other people. It's a way to look at yourself in a different light, grow, challenge yourself. In listening to speakers, there's a lot of wisdom, encouragement, and scripture reading. I would encourage you to get involved with Love Your Life Ministries by attending a conference, a meeting that we have once a month, every month. The next one will be in January, and to see how different women have gone through different journeys and struggles in their life, and be encouraged that you can change and be loved. In conclusion, give your life a chance. Step out in faith and trust that He is there. And even though you may not see Him and you don't really understand if He's real or not, give Him an opportunity. Join us. Call me. Call Barbara. Attend one of the workshops. And just be encouraged that we will help you walk through these things and find Him. Thank you.
We are talking about expecting to be blessed. And this is the third part, how you can be blessed, by believing in yourself. Caleb believed in himself. He believed in the abundant life that God wanted to give to him. And he knew if he would not compromise, even those 40 years in the desert, even by God blessing him in the middle of sandstorms, snakes, droughts, no water, depending on God every day for them to receive food for him, sun, heat, wind, deserts dry you out. It's hard to live in sand environment over and over and over again. And yet he did it. He got it. So how did he do that? Well, he did not compromise, and he was all in. And it says, let me repeat again, Joshua 15, starting at verse 7. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land. And I brought word back to him as it was in my heart. Nevertheless, my brethren, who went up with me, made the heart of the people melt with fear. But, and this is key, this is the key to success, but I followed the Lord my God fully, wholeheartedly, all in, 100%. It's like saying every day, what would Jesus do? And responding and following that answer. He did it. He gave it. He did it all. And then it says, so Moses swore on that day, which saying, surely the lands on which your foot has trodden will be an inheritance to you, the blessings we were talking about, and to your children forever, because you have followed the Lord my God fully. He obeyed. He committed. We are now over 40 years later, they are ready. They're into the promised land. They have started to conquer. And 40 years later is not a disappointment, but is an excitement to really get serious. And it picks it up. It says, now behold, the Lord has let me live, just as he spoke, these 45 years. Can you imagine to wait for your promises to be fulfilled? 45 years. Would you have walked away? Would you have been disappointed? Would you have said, forget this, I'm not doing this? And at the years of 85 years old, wouldn't you rather just move into a condo? Would you sit on the beach in Hawaii? Would you like to retire? Can you imagine being 85 years old and saying, I'm ready. I am going to do this because God is with me. How is that possible? How could he do that? How can you do that? Let's finish it here. It says, now behold, the Lord has let me live, just as he spoke these 45 years, from the time that the Lord spoke this word to Moses, when Israel walked in the wilderness. And now behold, I am 85 years old today, and I am still as strong today. I was in the day Moses sent me, as my strength was then, so my strength is now. And then he says this, for war and for going out and coming in, I am ready to conquer the territory that still has the giants living in it that God promised me and is giving to me. Are you able to stand on the promise that God wants to give you? Are you able to be excited to live for him fully and say, God, I can do this? How did he do that? Well, this is how he did it. Because when we check in 2 Corinthians 4, at verse 18, it says this, "But we all with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory." Just as from the Lord, the Spirit. He was being transferred. Instead of focusing on disappointment, and instead of focusing on fear, instead of blaming God and saying why, he knew that the people of Israel, that the Hebrews were not ready to enter the promised land. He knew he could not enter it alone, and he knew he was part of preparing them and being a blessing to the next generation to bring them in. That took 40 years, not by God's choice, but by the people's choice for not being able to be ready any earlier like that. God is patient. God is patient with you. The third part is talking about being all in. The second part is talking about being all in with Jesus, giving your all, trusting him more than yourself, like Caleb did in an unbelievable way. And then the third part is the big one, because are you willing to commit? Stay tuned. We're talking about expecting to be blessed, believing in yourself the way God believes in you. And as Caleb learned that, not in a way he would have preferred, but made the best and expected to be blessed every single day, that is when the blessings came out, not just one day, but for 45 years. He's 85 years old now. He is ready to go to war. He is ready to claim what God promised him. He is still ready because God kept transforming him over and over and over again. And he reaped the blessings. So he didn't just see one time the glory of God, but he kept seeing the glory over and over and over again. And when you see that, the result is that your faith gets so strong that even at the age of 85, Caleb was ready to move forward. And it says this. He says, Caleb is talking. He says, I'm committed. That is step 3. I am committed. Now then, give me this hill country about which the Lord spoke on that day. For you heard on that day that Anakim were there with great fortified cities. Perhaps the Lord will be with me, and I will drive them out as the Lord has spoken. So Joshua blessed him and gave Hebron to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, for an inheritance. Hebron. Caleb goes in. Caleb conquers Hebron. You know what happened with Hebron after that? He was able to give it to his children. He was able to take out the giants. Hebron was the place where Abraham was, where Sarah was buried, Abraham was buried, Isaac was buried, Rebekah was buried, and where Leah was buried. Hebron was the place where where King David lived when he was king of Judah for the first 7 years after Saul. Hebron was right there outside of the gates of Hebron, where the gates of Gaza put up on the hill by Samson. Hebron was an important key place. It became one of the places where people could flee to when there was been an accident and somebody had gotten hurt, and it would protect them to be in that city. Are you seeing that when God blesses and gives and blesses you because of the total all-in and commitment and trust you have in God, and when you not compromise, that it doesn't just give you the blessings, but it will bless all those that are after you and after you and after you, even many, many, many years later. Caleb got it. Caleb did it. And it even says it in Joshua 15, verse 13. He was so committed. Now he gave to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, a portion among the sons of Judah, according to the command of the Lord, to Joshua, named Kiriath Arba, which by the name Abraham changed that name, meaning Hebrew. And then it says, Caleb drove out from there 3 sons of Anak, Seshai, and Ahiman and Talmai, the children of Amak. Then he went up from there against the inhabitants of Debir. Now the name of Debir formerly was Kiriath Sepher. They were blessed. God provided. God gave. Why? Because Caleb never gave up. And God is not giving up on you either. The question is, are you willing to take those steps? Are you willing to make those differences? How can you do that? And it says in 2 Corinthians 4, verse 16, how you can be part of that. It says, but we all with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory as from the Lord the Spirit. And in the other verse it says this, 2 Corinthians 4:16 says, therefore we do not lose heart. Caleb did not lose heart. You do not lose heart, whatever issue it is that you're dealing with. But though our outer man is decaying, yet our inner man is being renewed day by day and over again. And I want to share with you a personal story that happened to me that might encourage you as well. We have been doing this television show now for 4 years, and we believe in the abundant life. And the last 4 years seems almost like it's been a little bit of a desert, but we were committed, we did not compromise, and we were all in for Jesus no matter the difficulties that came our way. We started on carpet with 2 funny-looking chairs. And each month we chose to bring it up just a step. We worked with an entire team that were all lay people trying to make the best for you, the viewer, to show you how you too can thrive and live the abundant life with Jesus. Then one day, just several months ago, somebody came across us, and his name is Robin Scott Peters. And while he came across us, we knew that was the answer we had been praying for. We're almost 4 years later now. And as we're there, we have to make a choice. Do we let go of the entire team and give it over to one professional? And as I prayed about it, I knew it was the right thing. I just knew God was in it. He is incredible to us. He will drive 3.5 hours just to be able to bring the show to you. And as we were there, as we're starting to work, we decided it's time for the show to go to a bigger studio. And in my mind, those defeating voices, those defeating thoughts come in. How can we afford that? Where is the stage set going to be? Will there be enough lights? How do I bring the volunteer team in to help? And all these thoughts are coming to my mind. Then a friend of mine calls and says, Sonia Haas, he says, Barbara, you need to come to Sacramento. Come meet me at building E49. Here we go. We said, God, how are you going to take care of this? How are you going to do it? We drive to building E49. We meet Robin, our producer there. And he says, it's a no-go. And I'm like, oh, shoot. Did I just waste 6 hours of my time going back and forth? You know how those thoughts go into our heads. But then one person in building E49 that believes in 2 that are better than 1, according to Ecclesiastes 49, suggests and says, go to Access Sacramento. We go with 5 people there. We walk in this incredible, huge building. They don't expect us. They don't think we're coming. And we're walking in and we tell them, hi, here we are with the Barb Marshall Show. We want to film in your studio. Now, what would you have said that moment? Are you nuts? Are you crazy? We walk in, we see the studio and fall in love with it. They will help us. They will not charge us except for just a membership. They will store our stage. They will help us and go beyond what they usually can do in every way to make this possible. And how much do you think this is going to cost us? 0. Nothing at all. I walked out there and I was thinking about one more thing. And you might think I'm vain. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Yes, I am. I'm saying, what about my hair? And God even provided that, because the hairstylist that I have now, which is an incredible woman, Donna Boso, says, I am willing to go all the way to Sacramento to pay my own cost to take care of your hair. Do you see how God is in it? How God has blessed? How God is providing? How God is taking care of it all? He wants to do that for you too. He wants to provide. What is it that you need to do? First of all, for you to live, to start believing in yourself, start trusting God more than yourself. Expect to be blessed. Write it out, write it down, and know that God is bigger than whatever you're facing. Start thinking big. So often we think about what we can do, but what we need to do is to see it in a much bigger way, the way God can do it, as the TV studio, as Caleb with the Promised Land. 3 steps for you. Do not compromise. Be truthful to God. Step 2, be all in with Jesus. And contact us if you want information about that. Step 3, be committed and follow through. And I can tell you, God will bless you. He will lead you, like He has done that for Caleb, like He has done that for me. Contact us. We want to encourage you. We want to be there for you. 855-836-1100. Or go to barbtv.org. And don't forget, expect to be blessed.